You're listening to Inclusive AF with Jackye Clayton and Katee Van Horn.
Well, hello, Katee Van Horn.
Hello, Jackye Clayton. How are you?
Well, if I was any better, I'd be twins or in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
Or I
Why
don't
Puerto
know,
Rico?
Canada. I'll go in Halifax. I'm not asking for much.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I would maybe go a little bit further than like even one of the U.S. territories because I think it'd be safer. I'm just saying, just throwing that out there.
I have a friend who's moving from Miami back to Medellin, Colombia. Now, when did you think in your life someone would say it's safer in Medellin, Colombia
Mm-hmm.
than Miami?
That's a
Okay.
little different.
All right. 20-second before we keep going. This is the Inclusive AF podcast. We do have a returning guest with us. So, Lindiwe.
That's why it's important
Yes.
to realize times is hard, and we're going to talk about it today on
Yes.
the Inclusive AF podcast.
Yes. If you could reintroduce yourself for the folks that are listening, and again, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to see you both. Reintroducing myself for part deux. My name is Lindiwe Davis. If you ever feel nervous pronouncing my name, for any of you that may meet me in this world, you can always call me Lynn. But of course, my preference is Lindiwe. My pronouns are she and her, and it's nice to be back.
Thank you for joining us. I think, things have shifted a bit since the last time we chatted. And so, we've got a lot to dig in on. So,
Yeah.
First off, what has changed in your world and what are you most excited about? Let's start there. And then we'll go
Okay.
to the dark side.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, as if the dark side is in some chest we can open and close. Not.
Right.
It's completely open right now.
Yeah.
For me, what has changed? I have started elevating a little bit further into my business. So I have a business called Future State Collective, and I have just been continuing to kind of build that out further and further as it's an ethos of community and storytelling and podcasting and coaching and etc. And so just working really hard to kind of bring that up and uplift it because as a friend of mine always says, just because you're talented, it doesn't mean people know. And so and so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I got dimples. Okay, so people are just going to find me. Yeah, they're going to find me. The dimples are going to lead the way, and they're just going to say, oh my gosh, she's talented. Let's get her a contract or a brand deal, or let's get her to develop this talk series. Like that's what my mind is telling me. But the truth of the matter is, you have to put yourself out there. You have to make sure people know. So I've just been trying to do a better job of getting consistent with putting Future State out there, but more specifically, Lindiwe, who is also known as the Couch Coach, which is part of my
Yes.
business. And I have an upcoming podcast as well that's called They Tried It. So more to come on that. But aside from that, doing what you all are doing, every time I walk by a little darkness, I just walk by it. I don't get into it. No, no, no. Because if you get in, you're going to need help trying to get out, you know. But no, I just walk by, I wave, I ask, do you need a raft? Do you need
Yeah.
help
Right.
getting out? And for some people, they want to stay. They want to stay there. So I can't waste time. I have to keep walking, with the light, which is where I'm at.
Go towards the light.
The light. Carol Ann? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
I love that you said that. It is so true, and it's been really interesting. I've really appreciated. I'm on Instagram all the time. Some of those scenes are different, memes where it's like the world is crashing. This is what I'm doing over here, like I'm at the pool having a nice little drink with my umbrella in it, dealing within reality, but not.
Right.
I can't stay in it because I think things have changed. It's just not a healthy place, and we have to take care of each other, right?
Absolutely.
Make sure that we're there.
Absolutely.
I
And
wanted to
not
say,
you know what? And not in that way that people are like, oh, let's braid each other's hair. No, more
no,
like if you see somebody in trouble, maybe ask if they need help. Or if they're not in a position to say anything because they have no voice, maybe you can provide some additional assistance because you yourself have space. I think it's always based around that too, that you have to think about how much space you have, what kind of energy do you have, and where are you in the world right now? Because again, back to what I just said a few moments ago, sometimes people get into the darkness and it's just easier to be there, with their shortcomings and not elevating, not growing, not learning, etc. No one's holding accountability, loud and wrong, keyboard warriors, etc. So with that being said, I think that the course of action is how can you stay much more in tune with moving forward with the light and with people that are trying to do their best on a daily basis.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And I really love the title, They Tried It. I
Mhm.
said earlier before we started recording that I spent a lot of days trying to like scrape my jaw off the floor. And really,
Mhm.
that's the response. Like, they're really doing this. This is really
Mhm.
happening. Yeah, they
Mhm.
try to do that. Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we're going to keep going and have to disrupt the narrative a bit,
Yeah.
And it's,
Mhm.
how have you dealt with that? Because it has changed quite a bit, the people looking to you to answers and the response. There's more and more, it seems like, people
Yeah.
that are looking for more of the coaching and more
Mhm.
of that kind of support. Has that kind of amped up some of the work? I'm glad, because you're right, they do have to find you to be able to
Yeah.
do that. So how
Yeah.
else has it changed?
I feel like there's been, because I'm trying to further use this treasure toolbox of the last 30 years to my advantage, right? It's trying to take all of that information that's been kind of composed across 30 years, several different generations, several different industries, and trying to plug it in so that people know that they can tap into their own courage. Because that's really where my place of progress is right now, is how do I utilize what I believe is my own courage to influence other people to use their courage? And to really kind of answer your question with coaching, just with that in and of itself, people are very much at this place where they don't know how to speak up for themselves. They don't want to speak up for themselves. They're ready to pivot, but the job market looks crazy as hell. It looks crazy. I'm like, is what's happening right now? Because I literally just watched Avengers Infinity War again. It's one of my favorites outside of, might be second or third after Black Panther, of course. But that particular film with Thanos, okay, I'm like, is Thanos running the job market? Is that what's happening?
Right.
He's just snapping his fingers and there's no opportunity, or there is opportunity, but then people don't know how to access the opportunity. So a lot of what I'm seeing from various people, whether it's informal or formal, when they ask for time or when I'm at some conference and, on stage doing what have you, um, that's a lot of it. Speaking up, courage, pivoting, and then also feeling comfortable in their own skin. I'm getting a lot of that through that lens of people feeling like, should I be going to lunch with my team every day? Do I have to
Mm.
go to lunch with them? Do I have to share my personal life? I've had several people ask me that question around, what should I be doing to connect with my team? Because I don't want to have lunch with them every day. And I'm like, well, you don't owe anybody anything at the end of the day. You really don't. You don't owe anybody anything, which means that you can come up with statements that are actually true. Hey, thank you so much for inviting me, but I'm not going to be able to make it today. I'll catch you all later this week. Keep me on the list. These are simple things, but in the time that we're in right now, I think a lot of times people are just stuck trying to figure out how to just save themselves,
Hmm. Well, and I
right?
think it's also protecting your space.
Yes.
I think and I don't know about either of you, but by the end of the day, I am so mentally and physically exhausted that the
Yeah.
idea of going to the gym or going and doing anything other than sitting in front of a TV or in front of a device is overwhelming as all get out. And it's because of this, like, oh, I have to be on and okay for everyone around me.
Hmm.
So how do I put those boundaries in place and actually set those, okay, I need a minute, or no, I can't join you for lunch, even if it's virtual.
Hmm.
I need
Hmm.
to go do whatever I need to do. Whatever, and to your point, whatever excuse you want to use, and how do you say
Right.
it in a nice and kind way without offending anyone? So,
That's right. That's right. I mean, I think I've seen an uptick in my own life of dessert intake. Um, I mean, I was already a dessert lover, but over the past 6 months, there has been
A lot of creme, a lot
yeah,
of creme,
oh my gosh, this is, I
insert
mean,
thing here.
it had gotten a little bit out of control.
Mhm.
Just a smidge. I like a little basque, which is a burnt cheesecake, chocolate.
Oh, yes.
Delicious. I love only very specific cakes. In New York, for example, there's a Brooklyn blackout cake, but it's a very specific one from a place called Ovenly.
Mm-hmm.
I need more information on this. What's in it? Tell me all about it.
So there's several that do it well in New York, but the place
Okay.
that I like it from is called Ovenly, and they use like a chocolate stout. Let that sink in. They use a chocolate stout that they blend.
I'm gonna need a minute for that then. Okay.
Yeah,
So this is in
yeah.
Brooklyn. Okay.
And you could order it through Gold Belly, which is a friend. I'm not that I'm advertising that, but just shout out to them if they want to send you all sponsorship and me too and some free stuff,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
We
you
need
know,
we need all the cake if everyone
all the desserts.
and a
But
big-
I say that to say to what you're saying, Katie, like there's these moments where you're trying to be on throughout the day. You're trying to get these to-do lists done. You're trying to do all of these things, but it's not true to where you really are energy-wise. And it makes it very difficult sometimes because now you're trying to turn the finger on yourself, which is a thing that we all do, whether it's through placating, whether it's through, not being kind to ourselves, whatever that thing is, we tend to not take the time to really say, oh, this is just fine. I can come home, I can be already home, I can sit here and watch this show that I love in
yeah,
silence, and that is okay, and
right.
etc. If people have kids, same thing. Maybe, they're working with their kids, they're doing their homework with them. Maybe they put the kids to bed and they're literally just in a closed-eyed but eyes open type situation with the TV on, you know. And so I think that there's obviously like there's something about being okay with that and really giving yourself permission. That's what's coming to me, this word permission, and all the ways in which we need to remember it and encompass it in our own lives as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Stacey Harris.
And this is Terry Zipper, and we're the host of the two podcasts under the HR Huddle.
On Spilling the Tea on HR Tech, we uncover the latest trends, truths, and challenges from Sapient Insight Group's groundbreaking research and our analyst insights, serving up everything you need to know about HR tech with no sugarcoating.
And on HR We Have a Problem, we tackle the toughest workplace challenges head on, offering you expert advice and actionable solutions to help HR leaders thrive in today's fast-changing world. Whether you want the scoop on tech or tools to solve people problems, we've got you covered.
Take a listen and subscribe. If you want to become part of our community, we'd love to see you.
I feel like sweet baby TJ, who is my son, who's 22, but I call him sweet baby TJ, introduced me to Love Island for just this occasion. He was
Okay.
like, Mommy, you need to watch Love Island. And I was
Okay.
like, what is this? He was like, it's absolutely nothing. There's like no value. Like your brain you can just sit there and like,
Just sit there.
because I am a reality TV fan. So I was just like, oh my goodness. It's like my version of that cheesecake where I'm just like, I'm just going to sit.
I've
with
seen
this.
crazy stuff like clips and stuff. I don't watch the show per se, but I do get my downloads from various content creators who are hilarious. And the clips that they end up
It's
showing, I said, "Ooh,
hilarious.
these are not the
It's
children that
out.
Whitney Houston was talking about."
No, hilarious. These are not the children that Whitney Houston
No.
is not. But I want to go back to, you were talking about coaching a bit and the
Yeah.
job market. And I think it's because, I mean, we're in a really interesting time right now because things
Yeah.
are moving so fast. So I'd love to hear
True.
more about your coaching because it's a different time. It's not, maybe a couple years ago,
Mhm.
we might have said, if you can just hold on till
Yeah.
this time, but you're really hanging on by a thread in all industries with if you're not doing something to stay abreast. So how
True.
are you coaching through that moment? What are some of your, without, I mean, we'll pay you for real coaching, but I mean, thinking about that, how are you?
Yeah.
I know that
We
has,
would actually, on second thought, we would like to tell you all of our current issues.
yeah.
What we need you to do for us. If you can help us.
Oh, that's a whole different show. I need cocktails for that and a little bit of copay. No.
Exactly. Oh, go ahead.
No, so I think the thing is, even just starting with myself, let's focus on the job market, for example, to your point. A few years ago, sure, when these major layoffs started happening, and I want to set the context here that I understand that across the last 30 years, there's always been layoffs. The difference is, though, is that over the past, this is 2025, so I'll say 3 to 4 years, the layoffs has come at such a large number of people and at a rate that I don't think we've seen in a long time, which is why it's been so daunting and kind of like a slap in the face to many people outside of the value system and virtues of what you thought said company was about. And so even for myself, I'm no different. I'm thinking about the next step in my career and in my pathway and my dream life, etc. And so with a little bit of coaching and to myself, the one thing I keep saying is that you have to stay the course.
Mhm.
Whatever it is that you were trying to do in your career and your dream path and your this is the purpose of my life. Hopefully, in many people's lives, those three things connect. I know that they don't always. Sometimes it takes some time to get all three things in one place. Even for myself, I've been chasing this thing for a very long time, being a TEDx talker and Emmy Award winning host and so on and so forth. All right. I'm manifesting that. We're going to have Denzel,
Yep.
everybody on the couch. All right. Through the couch coach, but we'll get to that. But my point is, one thing I like to tell people is that you have to stay the course, even when it's hard, because the whole point of setting a path up for yourself and setting goals is so that you, in your own time, in your own self, as you're continuing to grow, can actually meet the goals that you're setting, not the goals somebody else is setting. No, no, no. What you are setting so that you understand what that means to you and how much it means to you. But it's that tagline for me. You have to stay the course. If your job says, listen, we're going to move you out of this org and put you over here in this org, and you trying to figure out why the hell would you do something like that? It doesn't make sense. It disrupts my entire path. You don't need to stomp around in the room, right? If something like that happens, what you can do is get out your little notebook that has your dreams on that little notebook or your dream board, and you say to yourself, what does a pivot look like? Because although I have no control over them moving me over here to this org, how am I going to use this move to my advantage? Not to their advantage, to my advantage. And then the second thing I'll share is outside of staying the course, even if it's a job that you don't want to do, you have to do it with the integrity. The integrity has to be across the board, no matter what the job is, whether you like it, don't like it, if it's a stepping stool, whatever. You just have to walk with a level of integrity while you're staying the course towards the thing that you're moving towards. Mm-hmm.
Like, I think like that for me is such a, like, we were just talking about not Whitney Houston's children, or the children she spoke of, which is funny. And I am going to use it at some point in the future. But I think it's also, that's such a good point, because I have, and Jackye knows this, I have quite a few nieces and nephews. Obviously she has children as well. And I think that's the biggest part, is how do you stay motivated? How do you stay, I won't even say excited, but motivated to and
Yeah.
engaged on this, when you are like, but this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I
Right.
want to do. And this isn't on my board. This isn't on the path that I thought I would be on right now in 2025. I
Right.
think that's
Right.
a key piece to be, to keep in mind of how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's, even for me right now, like I said, I'm in the middle of it right now for myself. There are a few people I know, including myself, that are in the middle of this transitional space that we didn't necessarily choose, but depending upon what you believe in, right? I believe in God. I believe in I'm a spiritual person as well, and I feel like when messages come to you, sometimes you just need to be paying attention to the message. And the message may come to you 2 or 3 times before you start making moves, right? And sometimes the message is not like, what? Didn't I just get over this barrier. Why the hell is there another one standing here?
Right.
But it's because you're not moving the way you're supposed to be moving, or you're meant to actually go through that barrier so you can just pull the lessons and move forward. And so the motivation part, it is hard. Right now, I've just been thinking, even this week, why does my fire look different now than it did when I was 16 years old? Right.
Right.
And I don't know if that's just because at 16, you can see the world in a way that's so hopeful and, yes, I'm going to jump from here to there. I'm going to go to school. This path is just going to lay out because I'm a good person and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But that is not how the world works. It is a nice thing to keep in mind and in your heart. In fact, it has held me together when things have been hard. But when I think about the fire that I had, again, I was thinking about it this week, it just feels like it's a different kind of fire. And I need to put a little more coal, you know, in this engine so that I can lift the fire up. And the reason why it started to go out a little bit is because there's been so many fights that I've had to get through, so many barriers, so many people standing in the way, so many shenanigans, right? You've got foolishness. I don't know if I said this the last time during our part one interview, but I said there's a meter I like to work off of. Foolishness is at the bottom, which is like a way of thinking, right? And then shenanigans are the actions that people utilize for their foolishness, and then there's insanity. So with those things, okay, in mind, I have had so many battles and barriers and people that I had to get through and out of the way, you know, sometimes your level of stamina is a little bit low.
Yeah.
Right. And so with that, your fire starts to get blown out a little bit, not all the way. We don't want it to go all the way out, but we can start to feel like what is really happening with me. You have to admit it first, like my fire is a little bit low right now, right? It's a little bit low. My desire is a little bit low for X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z battles that I've had to face. It could also be low because you're not in the place in your life that you want it to be. Like we do these things where we repeat things to ourselves. Again, not being kind to ourselves. Oh, I should have been this. This timing should have been that, et cetera, et cetera. But I think there's a level of acceptance that once you have that and you're being very honest about you, the person, you start to see yourself uplift yourself in whatever the situation is. And I really am a believer of when these things are happening, the hard things, the challenges, the fights, the battles, the barriers, whatever the thing may be, that all of that is like caterpillar stuff. You're in a caterpillar stage, right? And you're trying to get out of caterpillar stage so you can get to be the butterfly in that phase of your life. There are several phases in life where we are the butterfly and the caterpillar. You just have to figure out which one you are in the moment that the things are happening so that, again, that fire is lit, or so that you have enough air to fly, whatever analogy you want to use or add to that. But it's all relevant to what it is I'm saying and how I'm driving this point home, that it really is up to us, and we have to figure out what the desire is. How do we feed back into the things that mean so much to us? For me, it was going back to 16-year-old me and saying, that girl, ooh, she knew. You couldn't tell her nothing. She was going to school, right? She was going to school. Okay. She was going to be meeting Oprah. She was about to be on Oprah's team. Okay. She was going to spin her own show. She was going to become a media maven. You could not tell her nothing. 47-year-old me is, ooh, it's been a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff, but it is still possible. Everything I've ever wanted is still possible. Back to staying the course. There's been some detours here and there. Again, lots of barriers, but I've never lost that. And so that's how I've managed to keep my fire kind of burning, you know, in and of itself.
I do not mean to take us off topic, but I have to
Yeah.
make a joke because that's what I'm good for. I'm just looking at these words: foolishness, shenanigans, and insanity, and I'm like, wait, is this the executive, judicial, and
Yeah.
branches of the government right now? Because that's where I'm feeling right now. I'm like, oh yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Legislative. Well, I don't even know where we'd put each one. Shenanigans is probably legislative. Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry, I do not. So here's what I want to know. So 16-year-old you,
Mm-hmm.
plan, or you have a vision of this is what I want to do, what I want, what my path is.
Yeah.
And I think for all of us, there was this, oh, I'm going to go straight up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be my trajectory. I'm going to go from here to up.
Yep.
And instead it usually is this, and all these
Mm-hmm.
very different look. How do you pivot? So
Yeah.
knowing and I'm thinking about folks that we're focused on DEI, that
Mm-hmm.
now it's basically that job doesn't exist anymore, or we're focused on whatever it might have been. How do you start to pivot and think about what is next for me? Because I think
Yeah.
part of it too is to your point, jobs just aren't there, or
Yeah.
what I did before doesn't suit me anymore, or they're asking me to do something different than what I think is my role or what I should want to work on or am passionate about. So how
Right. Yeah. So this is always such an interesting question because I think it's so nuanced. I think the first thing I'm thinking about though is how does the next step contribute to you staying on the path of where you're trying to go? So, for example, if I worked in retail, right? This is actually a true story. I've had a couple of instances where this has happened, where people have, we were just having conversation as they were ringing me up and they figured out, oh, wait, you work in tech. And so right off the bat, I'm just giving them like tips and tricks of how to make the moves they need to move from where they are. And so I think the first thing is research. You have to do your research when you're trying to pivot in your life, no matter what it is. If you are the tax accountant that's about to become the baker, what kind of research are you doing to ensure that that's going to happen? More than likely, you probably already have a subset of points that you've gathered for yourself because you've been thinking about it for a long time. So I think the first thing is thinking about what does the research say for you in this moment right now for how you can take your life from being that retailer to working in tech, or being the accountant who wants to become a world-class dessert maker or a baker, right? I think that's the first thing. I think the second thing is if you were trying to pivot, where are your finances, right? And I know this is more in the weeds, but I think that these are practical things that you have to think about. I'm not a believer of, you know what? Fuck this job. And then saunter into the air with the butterflies over to wherever it is I think I'm going. No,
Right.
that's not that's not, I'm a grown up. It's not something that I can necessarily do at this point. And so you have to do your research. You have to think about your finances. You have to think about what is the impact of you making this change right now, and how far are you willing to go? Because when you think about the bigger picture, a lot of times people are like, I'm ready to go. I'm ready. I'm done. But the question is, how far are you willing to go to get to where you need to be? And what is it going to cost you? What does it mean to you? I think cost, meaning, and really kind of taking calculated risk, all of that is a part of pivoting, changing your life, changing your job, changing a partner, et cetera, et cetera. And what is the value of all of that to you, in and of itself? And where do you want it to go? What do you want it to be once you consider all of those things? The financial effect, the impact to you, the value, the research, and who's coming with you. A lot of times people don't know. They don't understand why the hell you went from Arizona, where, and this is my own story, you went from Arizona, which is not where I was from. It was just where I was living at the time. Uh, Left there, gave up an entire life, your car, your clothes, your closet, your house, and you moved to New York with 3 bags. And I was already a grown up. I was in the 30s.
Right.
A lot of people didn't quite understand it. Not that they said it out loud. Sometimes they just kept it in their mind, but it wasn't making sense to them. So you also have to have some support around you when you're making these pivots and changes in your life. Even if people don't agree with it, if they support you, you're already winning, right? In and of itself, because you're going to need them as you're asking yourself, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And why is it so hard? Because it is going to be hard. It may not be DEFCON 3 hard, but DEFCON 5, sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And especially if you're moving from a place that is not like New York, using that as an example. New York is one of the hardest places you can move to, but if you feel like you can stay the course, it's a beautiful place that'll change your life.
my oldest is in New York, and I'm always like, if you can make it there, you can make it literally, you can
Anywhere.
make it anywhere. Come back
It's
to
true.
Waco.
I think that's a
You'll
lyric
be
of
home
a
in like
song.
5 minutes, bored. Like,
No, I was just telling somebody this recently. I'm like, I think younger people and people that are in the middle space in their life in terms of age, and everybody has a different definition of middle age, but I think younger people that are right around 22, 23, 24, 25, 25, I think is a good age to jump from wherever you are to a place like New York, because that discovery period from 25 to 33 is super important in and of itself. And I think those lessons, man, the lessons that New York gives you, it'll show because it shows you who you are. It really does. There's not a place that I've ever lived that honestly showed me exactly what I'm capable of doing per how far I'm willing to go to get to where I need to be with integrity, with an honor, with honor, et cetera, et cetera. So, and for people that are quote unquote in the middle space of their life, over 40, for example, over 35, I'll say over 40, second chapter, not third. It's also a good time to take that leap of faith because you already have some foundation. And now it's time to figure out if you need to uproot that foundation and build something new. Yeah.
I think people confuse a little bit of like the cost and the price,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yes.
this is the cost. I used to have a friend who was like ridiculously wealthy, and I was always trying to shift and maneuver things, and they would always get to a point where they would be like, Jackye, the price is the price.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're trying to do this, like, that's what the price is. Like, you can nickel
Yeah.
and dime all day, but it's going
Yeah.
to come out one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same within, like, you can try to chat GPT your way into a new career and try to pivot, but the price is the price, and it just shows up in different ways. It manifests in different ways, whether it's within relationships or
Yeah.
personal lifestyle. But I do think we're starting to see people have more of a personal lifestyle brand to their employment that we
Yeah.
haven't seen before, where it's, yeah, I could do that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but this is what I need to have in my life, because they're just watching all these Gen Xers with, like the migraines and the stress going, oh yeah, I don't want to do that.
Right.
I think I find it funny, as especially if you've gone internationally, if you've traveled internationally, if you've gone to other homes, and the first thing people will notice is the size of people's homes, wardrobes, kitchens, and they're like, how do you even live in this tiny space? And then they
Right.
come, like where I live in Texas, where the cars are too big, the houses are too big, the grass is
Right.
too much. Like, what are you trying to do? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. You don't realize how we live. And again, understanding what the price is versus the cost. And there's only certain things that you can change and manipulate. I think that the for people that are making that change, I do recommend that you look for a coach and really have someone, because it is you are training to make that leap, and
Right.
need somebody to help you stay the course, because we are all discomfort averse, I think.
That's absolutely true. It's the discomfort that you hear a lot from folks that they're not ready for. And I also think that a lot of people get confused on a few different terms. So for example, being uncomfortable is very, very different than struggling.
Yes.
Being
Right.
uncomfortable is, oh no, I'm in this job I don't like, and I can't go to my favorite coffee shop on a daily basis anymore because I got to tighten up my finances, right? Whereas
Yeah.
struggle is, oh snit, I don't have a bed and I'm very close to not having a place to live. That's very different than discomfort. So, even just identifying that with your situation is going to be super, super helpful, so that you're not mistagging yourself and setting yourself up for additional worry that you don't need in that moment, right? But yeah, the price is the price. There is no finagling. Once in a while, you might be able to, go from $3 to $2.92. but
Right. But that's it.
that's it. That's it.
I'm not going to remember the author because I read this book 700 years ago, but um, I read a book and it was basically like, what's the worst case scenario? We're in this space going to what's the worst that can happen. So, when you're in that area of discomfort, go to that place of how bad can it get or
Right.
the worst thing that could happen. So, the example I have used is, okay, so if I lose my job or if I lose my house or if I lose my whatever, first thing that happens. Now, I am in a very lucky position that I have 6 siblings. So whether they want it or not, I would move in with one of them or I would whatever, and again, I know that I'm in a very privileged and good space because of that. I could probably, hop from house to house so that they don't murder me. But that's a different issue altogether. But the concept of like play it out in your head of like, what is the worst case scenario? Because then I think it also gives you that, okay, well, it is that bad or it's not that bad.
Right.
I'm going to end up on the street and I have small children and I have this and what's the worst that could happen?
Right.
Or is it, well, it's going to be uncomfortable for a few months and I need to buckle down and not buy that, whatever, that new sweater or whatever it might be. And so kind of just reframing it in your head. So you can, because all you do, I think for any of us, when you are in a space of discomfort or what's next or how do I pivot or whatever it might be, you do have that mindset of, oh my gosh, if this fails, everything blows up and there's no way to return from this. I will never recover. I will never. And then it's like, okay, well, let's play it out.
Right.
And what truly is that thing? Like, what is the thing that's going to happen? Or how does, we've all made mistakes. We've all done things that haven't been great or that we maybe aren't proud of or whatever.
Yeah.
We've made a decision on a job or a work or relocating or whatever. Like I moved to Minnesota and I was up there for a year and a half and I was like, I hate it here. It never stops snowing. I am an Arizona girl, so I need to go back to the sun. Like, this is not for me. This is not the place I should be. I need to go back to where the sunshine is. And it was a mistake. I got great experience from it. I got, great friends from it, that type of thing. But playing those things out in your head is such a critical piece to it, I think, too.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, I think also just having someone, who has done what you're trying to do is always super useful, even if it doesn't exactly mirror everything. Just having a person who has taken leaps of faith,
Yes.
or calculated risks, because you could be a leap of faith person. I'm exactly that. But with leaps of faith, I do research, right? It's never just, oh, let me kick the door in and walk through. No, very much this behavior of let me look around the corner. To your point, Katie, let's look around the corner and see what the possibilities are. And I think also for people that happen to be overreactors or people that tend to jump in their behavior when things go badly and without thinking, that's like a good thing and a good piece of information for them to have, just to let's just look around the corner, play it out ahead of time before I overreact on something that's not even here. Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting. I have had 2 children and I remember it's always how your brain works in its way to protect you and how you forget all that pain and you're like, oh crap, yeah, that. Yeah, I don't want to do that again.
Right.
But you forget it over and over and over again. And now in my 50s, I'm like, none of it is that bad. Like all of it is much, but you have to get there. I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the worst day ever. Right, ever of all time. And I don't remember what we were listening to. I think we had Depeche Mode, and I was like, in the background, we were working on a puzzle, and I was like, oh, and it was like, what are you feeling right now? I was like, I'm gonna get in so much trouble. Like I remember listening to that song, and I was gonna get in really, really big trouble. And I'm just glad I'm here. That's all I'm gonna say about it. Like, and you can get through these scenarios, but it's like making sure it's interesting because you have to do both, right? You have to not be afraid to shrink, advocate for yourself at the same time, like imposter syndrome, we know creeps in the reality of the scenario while holding yourself strong to make these changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Imposter
Like,
syndrome, that in and of itself is definitely I won't call it the killer of dreams, but it is definitely a cousin to trying to take you out of your headspace of I can do this, right? It's definitely one of those virtues that we are not interested in actually having, but it creeps up on everybody. It's literally lurking in the dark, asking you, yes, let's sit here. Let me sit right here with you and be with you. And you're like, no.
right.
No. I don't want you here. I don't want you here. But I think that there's also like a level of, I hate to say it, but there's a level of comfort in when you have imposter syndrome, because now it's giving you permission to now say, oh yeah, sure. I did what I could, but I just wasn't good enough, right? There's a level of comfort of being able to say something like that when deep down inside, you know that's not true. You know it's not true. And this is where those friends and that support group and even just small wins that you happen to have are going to need to come into your space and kind of refuel you. Back to what we were talking about earlier in the conversation.
I think it's interesting too, because the only way you can get imposter syndrome is if you're actually doing it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's gotten, not the only thing, but what it's gotten me through bad bouts of imposter syndrome, because it means you're actually doing it, or else you wouldn't think that you couldn't do something if you weren't
Mhm.
doing it. So
That's
you
right.
doing it. So
That's right.
that's like the first step, or the second, or
Mhm.
third. Imposter syndrome's always gonna, at least you're doing it.
At least you're doing it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, we like to play this game at the end of each episode. So we're gonna start with you, Lindiwe. So tell us, what is one thing you would like our listeners to hear from this episode?
Ooh, there's a lot of nuggets. I
It doesn't
think,
have to be one thing really, because we never really do one thing, because
Yeah, no.
it usually has 75. So
Yeah, loser.
I want the listeners and people that are also discovering the podcast to remember that no matter what happens, if you are faced with a decision that's what you think is, if I go left, this is going to happen. If I go right, this is going to happen. I want you to remember it doesn't matter which direction you go in. When you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, you'll always end up where you're supposed to be, which is in line with staying the course. And so I think just combining those two things is something that's been super helpful to me, but also it's something that I often tell people, especially younger people, when they're faced with big decisions or what feels like big decisions. When you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, whether you choose A or B, you're still going to end up where you're supposed to be. But you can't be out here doing lines of coke in bathrooms. You can't be out here.
Turns out.
not recommended.
You can't be stealing from people. You can't be robbing houses, and no, you can't be doing none of that stuff.
Right.
Because you'll be on a different path altogether.
100%. Yeah.
But if you're doing what you're supposed to be
Depending on
doing,
what that vision board was,
right?
Take
recommended.
the lines off, the
Yeah.
weapons, the thievery, take it
Yeah.
off,
As
redo.
a
Right.
15-year-old, I might have thought, hey, that would have been a good plan, but no,
Right.
It's
We're gonna
not the best
rewind.
vision board. Yeah,
Mhm.
not a good vision board.
No.
Thank you, Jackye. What you got?
I want people to find their Lindiwe. Like, I want people, as they're looking at this and finding people to coach and mentor. Like, I am a little bit of a stalker on your profile. So I'm like, what my girl doing? It's like when you're feeling those moments, and somehow when you have people that you're looking to, that you feel like you're doing it together. So
Mhm.
I want to suggest that you look to your people,
Mhm.
and you don't have to look to people that are, even though we probably are both going to be at Oprah's birthday party. I'm just not
I
sure
mean,
when.
you know.
But I feel like, you can also like look to people and just reach out and
Yeah.
find people that you can talk to. and in that space, because in those moments, a lot of times you might have to look outside of your circle of
Yeah.
where you're going and what you need to do, because it's really hard as people are trying to keep you safe as you're trying to be innovative.
That's
So
right.
so look for your Lindawe, and then we'll see you at Oprah's whenever
Listen.
that
All
time.
right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Next
Yeah.
time.
fully believe that.
Yeah. Hang out. So I'm actually, Jackye loves when I do this. I'm going to piggyback off something Jackye just
Oh my
said.
God, listen, it's the colonizer's curse. You can't help it. You're just gonna steal from
Listen,
me
whatever.
every episode. You just can't help it.
So I'm going to start with you, and then I'm going to go to Lindawe too, because I think that is one of the pieces that I want to say to you, Lindawe, is that people are listening to you,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're doing it as a stalker, as Jackye
Yeah.
is right now. Even your stalkers are listening. So please keep doing what you're
That's
doing.
how good of a person you are.
Yeah, that's how good of a person. You have stalkers you don't even know about.
You
So
need to
there you
take
go.
that off my vision board, stalker.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's a piece is, having that community. But then I'm also, because I did go to church yesterday, because it was
Mhm.
my mom's 86th birthday. So we did go to mass because she's convinced we're all heathens because we don't go to church every Sunday. We did it. It made her
Proud of
happy.
you.
But the reason I bring that up is because, what you just said also reminds me of just the whole concept of, I know the plans I have for you, the Isaiah 29. And I think that's part of it too, is that you're where you're supposed to be, regardless
Yeah.
of where that is. And
Mhm.
plan, whether you believe in it, know it, feel it right that moment, even
Mhm.
when you're doing that line of Coke.
Mhm.
Again, please don't.
Mhm.
It's the idea of that. The idea of it scares me. I could never in a million years. But and I also will say yesterday, one of the things that the priest said was, tell God you need him.
Mhm.
And I was like, that is that's something that I don't think I've ever heard before. And it was like, yeah, I think that's part of it too, is that, we will reach out to who we need when we need them. But do we do that in such a way? And I know that this is absolutely not a religious podcast in any way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
but it does strike me. And so I just wanted to mention that. But I agree with you. There were so many nuggets in this episode. And so I really want to make sure that people listen to this because I think it's huge. And
Yeah.
I just want to thank you for the work you're doing and reassuring people in this time of what the heck is going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Your role, who you are, what you're doing every single day, the
Mhm.
words you're saying, what this podcast that you're going to launch is doing
Mhm.
or will be doing, I think is so important right now. So I want to thank you for doing this work and continuing to do this work.
I appreciate that. It's this has been this last 24 months has definitely been challenging, extremely challenging, and has tested a lot of the boundaries and limits that
Mhm.
you put up for yourself where you think you're trying to protect yourself, and sometimes people just keep doing wrong. And so now you have to meet them where they are with the energy of like, don't play with me. And so I think, and I think I've seen a lot of myself have to jump into that seat of don't play with me. I'm not the one to be playing with because I'm not doing wrong by people regularly. So don't roll up on me with your shenanigans. Because you're going to see my dimples and I'm going to be smiling, but I'm just going to tell you
Yeah.
about yourself. And so, yeah, so with this brand and business that I'm trying to build for myself, this is my dream. Like, to be the sought after host, to be the coach that people want to come to and talk to about not just life, but about the way in which they're moving in their life. All the while understanding how to build out content and again, becoming this media maven that is accessible, but not too accessible. Let's not get too crazy. I don't want you
Right.
outside the house,
Right.
no. But in and of itself, I don't know if you all saw that post before we close out. I want to say it came out earlier this year where the lady is singing it. I don't know if it was Instagram or if it was there's the people call it the TikTok. I don't know if it was on TikTok where she was saying, everything is working out for me. Everything is working out for me. That right there, that little chant will bring you back to life when you get up in the morning time and you're not feeling your best. Just sing that to yourself. It works wonders.
That
Uh,
is right.
And I do like that we had a little bit of the FAFO conversation thrown in there right at the end. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, because we do need to remind people. So that's good. That's very good. Well, thank you for joining us for part 2.
Thank you.
Fantastic. And, we appreciate you taking the time.
No problem.
And so this is Katee Van Horn.
And this is Jackye Clayton.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.